So in today's video, I'm gonna show you how a carnivore diet is perfect with intermittent fasting. And furthermore, how eating carnivore or more towards carnivore before starting fasting, or maybe even a little bit at the same time, is definitely a better way to do it than starting fasting first. And I'm gonna explain that and more in today's video, so stick around. Okay, first things first, what is a carnivore diet? A carnivore diet is something where the primary nutrition comes from animal products. Some people add dairy, some people add eggs. That's really dependent on yourself, your situation, your health, etc. But generally, a truly pure animal-based diet would be a carnivore diet where you basically have zero carbs. Now, some people do carnivore-ish, or it's 80 to 90%, where they have some dairy and some plants, some things like that. For myself, I'm doing about a 90% carnivore diet, where about 90% of my calories come from fatty cuts of meat, and then, of course, I try to throw in the organs here and there. But generally, it's fish, it's seafood, steak, primarily, some chicken, some pork here and there, but it's primarily red ruminant animals, grass-fed, ideally, and that's where I get the bulk of all my calories. If there's some plants here and there, I'll eat them. I don't really have any autoimmune issues where that's gonna be a problem, but I do keep it minimal, and I just find my biology and my cravings not really wanting that. And when I have a big fat steak in front of me and I got some greens on the side, or I have the potential for greens on the side, I really just wanna eat the steak. I don't wanna fill up on anything else. Your biology, my biology knows best. It's gonna opt for the foods that are gonna help you thrive. So carnivore is extremely low carb. In some instances, it's zero carb. If you're not doing any dairy or any greens and you're eating just animal products, you're basically zero carb, which makes it a ketogenic diet. Some people, because of the amount of protein you might eat on a carnivore diet, try to claim that is not a ketogenic diet. But I call bollox on that, because if you actually look at people that are doing this long term, they're eating lots and lots of protein and they're still in ketosis. So this fear of protein is something that is kind of its own thing that requires another video. You see that a lot in the keto community. It's more about being high fat, less protein. But I think what's ancestrally appropriate is definitely more of a carnivore-based diet, not worrying as much about your macros, just kind of eating to satiety, making sure you're eating fatty cuts, of course, and maybe having some fat in there, whether that's butter or oils or things like that that are approved. Yeah, for the most part, your body's gonna figure out the rest after that. And so the goal should not be to chase ketones. The goal should not be to be in ketosis, but the reality is if you're eating zero carbs, you're pretty much gonna be in ketosis most of the time. And this is shown through many of the current carnivores that are doing this. So intermittent fasting just means meal timing, right? So if you eat 3 square meals a day, but you eat it in the morning, let's say 8 a.m., then you eat lunch at noon, and then you eat dinner at 6 p.m., maybe have a snack before you go to sleep, well, you've swelled your entire day to have eating, and you haven't had any times where you've had fasting periods for extended periods of time. And having a fasting window with an extended period of time is where you get into fat burning mode. And because most people eat so often, they don't extend their fasting windows. Instead, they have just long, drawn out feeding windows with lots of snacking. They have trouble losing weight. And then you find people that talk about energy balance, and so they try to starve themselves, and that is a freaking nightmare, and it doesn't work for most people, right? And it's usually the people with superior genetics that can be able to train a lot, that can use some kind of calorie restriction to lose weight. And of course, long term, if you're calorie restricted over a period of time, your body is going to temporarily burn off body fat and even muscle though. The goal with intermittent fasting is to have something like an 8-hour feeding window with a 16-hour fast. So for most people, and the way I started with intermittent fasting was I skip breakfast. I have something like a keto coffee or butter coffee. And then that holds me over until my first meal, which is usually around 3 to 5 p.m. And as of right now, the grill's preheating and I haven't had any food today at all. And earlier, all I had was cold brew. So I've evolved to actually have nothing in the morning, just tea or coffee, and then having my first meal something like 6 to 8 hours after waking up. And when I was doing a 16-8, I would break the fast in the first meal, and then I would have up to 8 hours to eat my second meal. So I'm doing 2 meals a day within that 8-hour feeding window. I've done tons of fasting videos on this. There's also tons of videos on the internet, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that. I'm really here to talk about how fasting and carnivore is just like a match made in heaven. And the reason intermittent fasting is so effective for everything from weight loss to hormone to appetite regulation is because it mimics how our ancestors would have lived in the wild for hundreds of thousands of years. We did not have modern grocery stores or food preservation. We sometimes didn't know if our food was even gonna be available today. Maybe we might find some berries, but we wouldn't have been successful hunting. And so we could have gone long periods of time without any food at all. If humans had to eat every hour or 2 hours or even every day, our species would have died off a long freaking time ago. My version today has evolved from a 16-8 to something almost like a 20/4 or like an 18 to 19, 5 to 6. I just don't have as much of an appetite as I've had before. And I've been eating more of a carnivore-based diet lately, so it's doing this to the next degree, which is what we're here to talk about as well. So the number one reason that carnivore and fasting are a match made in heaven is because you are eating nutrient-dense, high-fat, high-protein foods that are going to satiate you and turn off the hunger switch. Your appetite's primary mechanism is to make sure you get the nutrients your body needs. That includes essential vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, water-soluble vitamins, etc. And it includes certain amino acids and fatty acids, all of which are essential, meaning they must come from your diet. When you're eating processed foods or low-quality foods, your body is signaled to keep eating because it needs to get the nutrition to not die. It really is as simple as that, which is one of those things that most people don't talk about when they're talking about processed food. And so many people spend time trying to focus on their macros, making sure they're eating a certain amount of carbs, protein, and fat, and then trying to basically take really low quality foods and processed foods and bars and all these things and then fit that into this macro scenario and then really wonder why they're still tired or whether why they can't control their appetite or whether why they have to have a cheat meal every other day to kind of stay on course because their body is still craving the nutrition it needs. When you're eating a carnivore-based diet and you're eating fatty cuts of meat, whether that's salmon or ribeyes or you're having things like roe or egg yolks, your body is getting all the nutrition it needs. It then turns off your appetite. I mean, just think about it. Even take something as nutrient poor as a chicken breast, which is my least favorite form of animal protein. If you take that food and you eat a couple handfuls of that and you chew through it, and it takes you as long as it does to get through that, give yourself a couple minutes and then see just how hungry you're gonna be. And that's kind of a weight loss hack for anyone listening. Start with your protein and or your fatty cuts. Even if you're still doing carbs or doing keto or doing even just a high carb diet, start with your protein first and your fat first. That's gonna fill you up and it's gonna help turn off those hunger hormones. I would say this is also the single greatest benefit to the carnivore diet is it just fills you up and it gives your body the nutrition it needs. And for most people that want to lose weight or burn fat or do anything, the hardest thing is turning off and controlling the appetite. So this lends itself to fasting because fasting does a lot of the same things. Fasting helps control your hormones, which are the primary mechanisms that dictate how hungry you are or how tired you get, etc. So the more you eat carnivore and the more you fast, and the more you fast, the more you eat carnivore, they just work together in a perfect symbiotic relationship. So the reason that the keto diet, for example, gets people such great results is because they're immediately paying attention to the very insulin spiking, high glycemic carbohydrates that you find in processed food and even the various forms of sugar that you can eat or drink and all the junk garbage food that is in our food supply today. And by paying attention to that, you're bringing more insulin control, insulin sensitivity, reducing the roller coaster of up and down that your hormones can have as a result of eating those foods. And of course, number one is you're not full and your body just wants to eat more and more. And so there's a lot of variables here. But when you are controlling your hormones by using a combination of fasting plus eating nutrient-dense protein and fat from animal products, it's just, again, it's this perfect relationship that everything works together to get you as close to your natural body weight, fat size as nature intended. Some people are going to be bigger and have more calories. Some people are going to be smaller, right? Some people have bigger arms. Some people have bigger organs. Some people have smaller. Getting to your most natural state using very nutrient-dense meats and fasting, while also, of course, like I said, watching your carb intake, which is what a carnivore diet does because you basically don't have any carbs on it or you have a very small amount of carbs. That's going to help you get closer and closer and closer to what your natural appetite is to maintain your natural lean body mass and your body set point, which is kind of like nature's way of saying this is what you should weigh, helping your body get to that place, especially if right now you're in metabolic disrepair, is one of the huge reasons that using fasting and something like carnivore is so powerful. And even if you're not doing a fully carnivore diet or a ketogenic diet for that matter, if you just start eating more protein and fat from clean animals, no matter what else you do on the side, it's gonna help you with these effects as well. And then of course, throwing some fasting in there is just gonna take it to the next level. So number 3 reason that carnivore and intermittent fasting work together so well is because they're almost the same thing. Let me explain. Some people suggest that eating a carnivore-based diet is going to mimic some of the effects of fasting. Some of the main benefits of fasting are people are eating less or no carbs. And that's going to help do all the things we just talked about, because carbs are the primary thing that trigger hormones in the human body. So when you're eating something that's literally 0 carbs, you're still getting nutrition, you're eating protein and fat, but it doesn't spike things the way that carbs do. And so it helps your body reset everything, and it helps you control your appetite. And so it is almost a fasting mimicking. So you get benefit from that itself. As your hormones come down and as your hunger gets controlled, it gets easier to go long periods of time without food. Your body starts not wanting to eat. And this is one of the default states for the human body, because like I said, it's based on our ancestral past. We have to be able to go periods of time to be able to focus and hunt and pursue finding food when we didn't have it. If we just got tired and cranky the second we didn't have food, and we're walking through the woods and some big cat just sneaks up on us and rips our neck out of our freaking head, right? Like, that's not a good survival strategy. So eating meat and very, very low carb helps you fast. It helps control all of that hormone dysregulation that keeps you eating all the time. And the more you eat meat and the more you keep it low carb, the easier it's going to be to go long periods of time without food. And you'll just not be hungry at times. And so maybe you would have had breakfast regularly, but you wake up and you have no appetite, and then you can just go the entire day without food. You can evolve to that. I've done that myself. I can literally wake up and go the entire day, eat my first meal at 10 o'clock, and not think about food once. Most people try to use willpower to control what they eat and to basically strong arm their appetite. But I can tell you that doesn't work. It's not long term. It just doesn't work. Using something like a carnivore-based diet, or at least eating more fatty cuts and more protein in your current diet, is going to give you all these benefits of hormone control. It's going to help you be able to fast more. And if you've already fasting and you start eating more protein and more fat currently with what you're doing, fasting is going to become easier. You can start increasing your fasting windows, maybe do full day fast or even 2 or 3 day fast. And it's going to be that much easier because of the fasting mimicking effects and all the hormone regulation effects that you get from eating something that is close to 0 carb and eating a lot of protein and animal fat. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you found this useful and shed some light on how to think about fasting, how to think about a carnivore-based diet, how to just eat more clean animal products in your current diet, whether you're going to do a carnivore diet, a keto diet, or even a high-carb diet that has like rice and sweet potatoes. Whatever it happens to be, eating more clean animal products is going to give you a lot of those benefits and have a lot of the fasting mimicking benefits we talked about, as well as a hormone regulation and all that stuff. If you have any questions on this or suggestions or comments or anything, drop them below. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit that bell, and I will see you on the next one.